No, today's Thursday. Girl, I got my... Hey everybody, happy, what's today? Today is Tuesday. No, today's Thursday. Girl, I got my days all mixed up here. Today's Thursday, so happy Thursday. I hope you guys are able to find some sort of joy or just something enjoyable to do today. If you're not and you are going through some drama or just going through some struggle today, then I'm sending you love and I'm sending you healing energy. And I want you to find something you can do that makes you feel normal. Because if you can do something that makes you feel normal or like yourself, it'll realign you and get you back to feeling okay or feeling solid in yourself. So it's important to do that. Hey everybody. So I wanted to get on here because it's just important to connect, and there's so much that so many people are going through, and I feel like I'm this library of information that I need to share with people, and I feel like I'm not doing enough sharing or giving information that y'all can use to help you in your lives and circumstances. And I feel like I need to give more. So I thought I'd get on here and do this as well. I'm going to just randomly start doing these pop-ins with you guys just because I feel like I needed to share more information, more spiritual know-how, etc. So I'm in my robe. I worked, or today's actually my day off. But last night I spent 6 hours working on my podcast episode for tomorrow because I interviewed my friend Rick, who's a psychotherapist, and we went through a lot of different topics. But the general message of his podcast was about love, compassion, being there for each other. It was about living a good life, living a passionate good life, but also being realistic with things in life, because life isn't always easy, nor is it going to ever be perfect. And we will never be perfect in this physical state. But it's a really great podcast, and it's going to come out tomorrow. So y'all tune in, because he gives away a lot of information for those of you who struggle with an actual anxiety condition, an actual anxiety condition. This is going to be the best show for you, because he's going to give you a very specific strategy on how to cure, not just dissolve or not just reduce your anxiety about something, but cure an anxiety over something. And when I say anxiety, I'm not talking about discomfort. We all get discomfort. We all have discomfort in our lives, and we all go through periods where we're not happy and we're uncomfortable, we're out of our element. But what he was actually talking about during the podcast was that if your discomfort or your condition is keeping you from leading a normal life, that's a different story. So if you have an extreme fear or phobia of water or swimming or flying in an airplane, which right now flying in an airplane isn't really going to have to be a phobia for a lot of people, but if you have those kinds of issues, he actually is going to help you to walk through the process of curing some of that. And you can apply this to other things as well, like OCD and obsessive compulsive thinking. He's going to walk you through some of that. So it's really psychotherapist. It's one thing when you get self-help stuff online, or you see memes, or you see people who say, be positive or think whatever, but he's actually a psychotherapist who's had years and years and years of practice and been in the industry for so many years. He's retired now, but he gives away, some of the strategies that he did in working with clients and patients all those years. So there's so many in here. Hey y'all. So I'm trying to see who's in here. Hey y'all. Hey Terry. So I want to talk to you all about scarcity, and that's why I wanted to get on here today, because I wanted to talk to you all about the scarcity mindset. And so many people suffer from a scarcity mindset. It is honestly it's a pandemic. I mean, the scarcity mindset is just as bad as the virus that is ravaging the earth right now. And that's because so many people have been conditioned and trained. And I'm not trying to downplay or to underscore the significance and the severity of what's going on with the virus. This is not even a conversation about that. This is about scarcity. And a lot of people suffer from a scarcity mindset because they were conditioned or they were raised in this type of inner being where there's never enough, or you will never have, or you can't achieve this, or you can't have that. And I understand it as well, because I went through that myself. I grew up very poor. I mean, we were very poor as kids. And I remember, my mom could not afford anything. Like there were no toys. I didn't have toys. I made my own toys. I remember one time, I was actually talking to my friend about this the other day. I remember one time we used to go to the little grocery store, and it was right around the street right around the corner from us. It's called Thrifties. That's what it was called. But it was a grocery store. It had like, the groceries and all that other stuff. But then it had this section where it had toys and it had all these other things. And I remember going with her, and every time I'd go with her, and this was when I was a kid, so I was like 3 or 4, and I would go up to the little area where there's toys. It was like one of those little wheel things that turns around and you got the toys hanging on it. I went up to it, and I just stood there and I would stare at the toys because I didn't have any. So I wanted these toys. And so there was a little airplane that I always wanted, and I never could have it because my mom could never afford it. And every time I asked her, Mommy, can I get this? Mommy, can I get this? She'd be like, I'm sorry, but I can't afford it. And it was only like $4. But back then in like the 80s, that's a lot of money. $4 is not, just nothing. $4 is like the equivalent of like $10. So, I mean, it isn't like chump change back in the 80s. But still, it was like an airplane, and I wanted this toy, and I really wanted it. It got to the point one day, because I decided to be a brat one day, and I'm so feel bad for my mom that she had to go through this with me. But like one day we went to the store, and I was looking at the toy, and I said, Mama, can I have the toy? And she was like, no. She's like, you can't have it, mijo. I can't afford it. And, she wasn't being mean or ugly about it. She was trying to be sweet and gentle. But I had it. I was like, you're like, lady, we have come to this store 10 times. And in the 10 times that we've come here, you couldn't afford it. I'm not having it. So as a kid, I didn't understand it. As a child, it just didn't register for me. And so, because I thought everything was possible. And as children, as pure children, we always think anything is possible. We have this mindset that anything can be achieved, anything is possible. There's no limitation. That's something that we are conditioned or learned through. So I remember like asking her, she said no, I had it. And I threw myself on the ground, and I'm laying there on the ground, and I'm screaming and crying, and I'm like, no, so I'm like going like, I'm acting like a fool. And she's like trying to like grab my hand and drag me across the floor out of the store. And I was just like crying and screaming like, no, I looked like a mess. I'm telling you, it was, to be a fly on the wall then, it would have been hysterical. But of course I didn't get the toy. But over time that became the norm. That became my reality. If I wanted something, no, we can't achieve that. That was the basic message I was getting across the board. No, you can't achieve that. No, you can't achieve that. No, you can't have. No, you can't have. So a majority of people, and even if you weren't dirt poor, I mean, there's still a lot of people whose parents were very, they were very focused on, not wasting money. And some people saw toys and stuff like that as wasting money or throwing money away. Some people saw, spending any extra money as a waste, and so they didn't do it. And so a lot of people were just really, what is it, Scrooges? They were cheisty, or they were cheap. And so a lot of people have been conditioned with the mindset that we can't have or we can't achieve. And as we go through life and we become adults, even with the things that matter, or even with the things that we feel are important to us, like an ideal job or a dream job or a dream home or a home at all these things that we as adults really do desire and want, there's that built-in mechanism that we've been conditioned with as children that says you can't have that, or you can't afford that, or there's no way you'll be able to achieve that. And it kicks in, and it's always there. And it takes a long time to register and to recognize that that's happening. But it is there, and it is playing a role in what you're able to materialize or what you're able to create in the world. In order for you to achieve success, in order for you to achieve your success, because success looks different for everybody. Success isn't just being rich or being famous or whatever. That's not success. Those are just conditions or circumstances. Success is when you decide to do something and you work towards that and achieve it. That's success. So if you're desiring this one day to be able to pay a bill and you can do it, that's success. If you're desiring one day to, go ahead and get on the treadmill for 20 minutes, that's success. So success is very different to a lot of different people. It doesn't have to look like one thing. People always have this idea that if I just achieve my dreams or my goals and I achieve my desires, all my problems in the world will stop and I will be happy forever. Well, I am here to tell you, as someone who has done that myself, And I say that because I literally did that last year. Like summer of last year, I achieved everything I wanted to achieve for the last 10 or 15 years. And I still was like, what else? There were still problems in the world. There were still issues I had to deal with. Problems didn't go away when you achieved what you wanted. And I learned this from my uncle, because my uncle was a doctor and he was like the wealthiest person in our family because everybody else was poor. So in the summertime, we used to go over there and go to San Antonio and visit, and we'd go swimming in a swimming pool because he's the only person that we knew who had a pool, and he had a huge house. And so we saw him as being successful and as being like achieved and accomplished and so forth. And yeah, to an extent, he had achieved that, but there were a lot of things that weren't working in his life, and he was, there was a lot of issues that were going on there. So for him, for that, he always used to tell us something. He always used to say, money doesn't make you happy. Things don't make you happy. And we always interpreted that differently because I was raised Catholic, and in Catholic, the money is the root of all evil. If you want money or you want to achieve prosperity of that magnitude, then that's an evil, sinful act. And if you do that, then you're aligning with the devil. Again, another conditioning mechanism as well. So there were all these conditioning situations and scenarios around a lot of different ideas that were built in and just like, forced into our brains. And we were brainwashed into embracing and accepting scarcity as a norm. So we were conditioned for that to be a norm. And it isn't. It isn't a norm. Before we come into before we come into this physical form, we have everything. We have absolutely everything. And when we come into this physical form, it's like we've been forced to condense and to make ourselves small for the purpose of the experience of the human experience. But this isn't who we authentically are on the grandest scale. And when we come from a place where we have everything to a place where there is conditions and situations that we're stuck with for a bit, that can really fuck with you, and it can mess with your understanding of what you are capable of. And then on top of that, you get all this conditioning from your family. So that's a lot of stuff you have to work through. So when you see people who go and read The Secret, the film The Secret, or they watch the film The Secret, they start trying to practice or do positive thinking, and they end up having a slapback. The universe says, oh no, bitch, you're not going to try to change the story on me now. For the last 20, 30, 40 years, you've been functioning this way, and everything that I've created for you has reflected and been the state of being that this is for you. And now you want to change it up in one day? I don't think so. So the universe is going to slap your bitch ass with the reality that has been your norm for that entire period of time, because that is your norm. And like a rubber band, if you try to pull away from it, the universe is going to slap you right back to the reality that you have already been sustaining quite healthily through the conditioning circumstances that you've gone through. So in order for you to break past that, you're going to have to apply yourself consistently, and you're going to have to use a little bit of strategy to move past that. Whenever I was teaching law of attraction and teaching people how to manifest and how to create the life that they desired, it was something I was also learning in process as well. And I always thought it was about being positive. You have to be positive. You have to be positive. If you're negative thinking, or if you think negatively or whatever, then you're not going to achieve anything, and you're going to end up, getting like nothing. And that's not true, and that's not accurate. I know some of the bitchiest people who get everything they want. And I happen to be one of them now. So it's possible to still be human and manifest the life of your desires. Don't fall into the idea of toxic positivity, because it's the same thing as like toxic masculinity. It's just too much of it that is not constructive. It's one thing to be optimistic, it's one thing to be positive, or to try to hold a very lighter state of mind, but you're still human, sweetheart, and you're still going to go through a lot of bullshit in life. And so you have to learn how to handle that while still getting back to a place of inner peace, or a place of peace, period, so that you can move forward not feeling like the world is hell. Because for most of us who have been through that scarcity mindset and continue to support it, the world is hell for us, because we don't know how to function in it, and we feel so robbed of what we know better. And on a soul level, we know better. On a human level, we just cannot grasp it. And so it's all about that scarcity mindset and changing this. So I'm going to go over a few things, and I'm going to ask you if you have any of these thoughts, because if you have any of these thoughts, you probably have a conditioning of scarcity mindset. So here's one of them. I hate them for having that. I should have it. that's scarcity mindset. So if you've ever had that thought about someone or something, that's a scarcity mindset. That means that what you're basing your entire experience and existence as a human being, as an energy being on this planet, is based around a scarcity mindset, which means you're only going to attract and bring more scarcity into your life. Now, here's the thing, and let me make this clear, because a lot of people are probably going to say, Fernie, like, this is the pandemic. The store shelves are closed or they're empty. Like, there's scarcity all around us. Like, that's not fake. That's not fake news. No, it's not fake news, but that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about here. That is something that we are all going through collectively. Even if being from Houston, we know that hurricanes come and go. And when hurricanes come or floods come, they happen for a day or for a week or whatever. But then once we get back to normal, that is what I'm talking about, the normal. So what I'm discussing here isn't so much about what we're going through and the pandemic and people who are struggling or are suffering on that level. What I'm talking about here right now has more to do with your norm when this all starts to go back to a new normal, because I don't think these are going to go back to normal, but a new normal. So that's what this is about. That's what I'm talking about here. So when we discuss this, when we talk about this, we're not really putting the virus situation in context with this. This is something bigger than the virus that can help transform your life regardless of what is happening in this moment, okay? So let me read another one to you. My life should be like theirs. They are evil for being prosperous. How many times have you seen someone else who is rich or wealthy or just even comfortable, or who has, whether it be has talent, has financial abundance, or even has something that you wish you had? How many times have you seen someone like that and automatically demonize them or think of them as someone evil or someone who's corrupt just because they have? Because I know from personal experience, I am from the hood and I built myself up as a person in my life and in my business and everything that I've done. And yet whenever I've encountered people who are not in that place, just by the way that my life is now, there's an assumption that I must have won the lottery, or I must have come from wealth or whatever. All you have to do is hear me talk for about 5 minutes. You're going to know that I didn't come from a background of higher education, because I've had to build my ability to speak and communicate in as eloquently as I can. And even then, I'm still not 100% happy with the way that I express things. I still think it could be worked on, which I do work on it. But people make assumptions because they see something or they see someone and they automatically assume that person must be evil because they have something that I don't have. That person must be corrupted because they are in a place of prosperity or because they don't struggle. And I get that because I used to be exactly the same way, but it has nothing to do with you, and it has nothing to do with any of that. And like I said, I've gone to my hairstylist, and my hairstylist she comes from a different background or different life. And so when I've come in, she's like, oh, so how are you doing? Where do you live at? And I told her like the area of town that I live in, and she's like, oh, you live around the rich people. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I'm like, no, I still have to worry about how high a bill is going to be or whatever, because I have budgets that I try to live within. I'm not trying to throw money out the door like that. So I don't think so. Ain't no rich people around here. These are all retirees who save their money up for a majority of their lives, and they spent a bit of money or chunk change on their houses, but they still don't want to spend money for the rest of their days or the rest of their shit. So people here still are very penny pinching because that's the way they were raised, to penny pinch everything, which there's nothing wrong with penny pinching because it can save you money over time if you're trying to be a saver, not a spender. But it's a mindset. And so there's a lot of assumptions that we make about people who are in positions of wealth or who are in positions of prosperity. And if you have those kinds of thoughts, you are in a scarcity mindset. I wish I had such and such. If you wish you had such and such, there's nothing wrong with desiring or wishing for things in your life. But if you are getting obsessive about your wishing for things, that usually is an indicative of having a scarcity mindset. If you're wishing for something every single day, that's a scarcity mindset. And you can apply that to every area of your life. You can apply that to relationships. You can apply that to finances. You can apply that to a job. Here's another one. When will God bless my life? When will I get mines? It's another mindset. It's another mentality, because you're under the impression that God is responsible, or that the universe is responsible for whether you have or you haven't. And if you are under that impression, then you're sadly mistaken, because you have everything within you to achieve and to have the kind of life that you desire to have. But most of us, because I am still in that bracket, we still have these conditions and they apply to all of it. Here's another one. They are snooty, so they must be entitled and not know struggle. My sister and I, we are seen as very snooty people because as time has gone on, over time, our level of expectation for how we experience things or what we like and what we appreciate has gone up. You know, it's like when you start to do better, when you start to do well, when you start to be in a position where you don't have to worry every day about just, you know, this dollar or that dollar. I'm not saying budgeting because I still budget the hell out of everything, but this dollar or that dollar. When you are in a different bracket, when you're able to spend a little more money on stuff, you start to focus more on quality and less on quantity. You start to focus less on like, I want this and I want that and I want this and I want that. And instead, you really just want to spend your money on quality things that are significant or that have more value than the typical thing. So you just start to change a little bit. Not only that, but like when I go out to eat, I don't really go as often to like McDonald's or Jack in the Box or whatever. Now, these are all my favorites. I mean, I used to do like when I used to go to Whataburger, I used to do double meat, double cheese, bacon, mayo, mustard, all the way, large fries, side of onion rings with a Diet Coke. Because I ain't about to spend all them calories on a Coke when I just got them from the burger and the fries. But, you know, that was one of my favorites in Houston. McDonald's, I used to love my McDonald's. I love my McDonald's breakfasts, especially when I'm on the road trip. So I have my typical like places that I like food from. But when you start to be able to spend more money, like I remember trying to come up with $5 so that I could eat at McDonald's. Like that was a treat for me. Now I can spend like $10, $20 on a meal and that can be fine. I'm not going to go broke because I spent $10 or $20 on just one person's meal. And so that's where you get to the level of when you start to really work towards that prosperity mindset. Not only that, but you have no idea the impact of if you just bought two $20 meals in a month that has an experience built around it, meaning you go into a restaurant, you pick something that looks delicious, you sit down, you have the nice meal experience. You can't do it right now because of the coronas, but you sit down, you enjoy it, and then you pay for the meal, which let's say it's $15 for that one plate, and then you tip the waiter, you know, $5, or you play with it because you want it to tip the waiter appropriately. But you do that is going to have more impact on you with your scarcity mindset than you having like McDonald's every single day, because that one experience is going to really force you outside of your comfort zone, and it's going to force you to have to consider yourself in a completely different way and in a frame of mind, and that will help you to make that shift. So that's another exercise and another strategy for y'all. But it's the same thing. Like when you move up the ladder, when you start to be more focused on prosperity and you start to build the momentum, even just building the momentum, I'm not talking about arriving somewhere, because if you think that everything is going to happen when you arrive, you are going to be waiting for the rest of your life. You need to think about things in steps, think about things in phases, and less about here and there. I'm right here. I'm trying to get way over here. Stop that. You know, I'm right here. I would like to be over there, but what can I do right here that makes sense for me? And then build into it, and then build into it. And then that's how you start to work towards manifestation and building and creating and pulling in the energy and the power of the universe to have the things that you desire. I noticed that this is something that irks me and gets on my nerves. A lot of people who are in this industry who are promoting prosperity, or who are promoting how to achieve something or how to enjoy prosperity or what that looks like, a lot of them don't actually talk about their own prosperity. A lot of them don't actually use examples from their own personal life to help you understand what the hell they mean. They can give you, you know, a great speech and they can talk about something, but there's a lot of people who are just talkers, not doers. And so you have no idea what their life circumstance actually is. They might be in the middle, and I know this from experience with other people, they might be in the middle of a lawsuit and they are on the cliff on the edge of being broke, and yet they're still pumping out like prosperity mindset, but they're focusing more on just saying it. They're not actually using their experience to exemplify that. I'm not saying that because you practice prosperity mindset, you're never going to have struggles like that. But it really is something you have to live, not just speak of. Because if you just go around speaking of something you know nothing about, then you are not authentic, and you are not authentically honoring the work, nor will you ever understand it fully. Because you're much more equipped to share it and say it and, click on it than you are to actually show it. And it's about the showing that helps people to arrive, to get to their place that they need to get to through you as the example. So that's something that's kind of irked me with some of the people in this industry, because I don't think that they do enough exampling and showing people how to do something. That reminds me of like a episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show where she was interviewing this young girl who was she had issues with her body, and she used to like basically starve herself, and she was starving herself to death. And Tracy Goldman was on the show and, was telling her, you got to feed your mind, you got to feed your soul, you got to feed your spirit, and just like motivation. And the poor girl who was starving to death, she looked at her and she's like, but how? Like, how do I actually do it? And Tracy was like, you got to keep just pushing yourself, like she wasn't breaking it down to something practical that the person can take away with them and use in their life. And that happens a lot. You have a lot of people promoting and sharing shit, but they're not actually telling you how to achieve it or how to get there through their own experience, through their own example. And for me, some of my favorite, things that I've ever read were the behind the scenes stuff, or the shit that people had to go through when they were getting someplace. I don't need everything to look, pretty and fancy and fluffy. I need it to be real, because the world is a real place with both positive and negative. It's not just black and white. There's a shitload of gray in the middle. And most of us have this mindset that it's either black or white, good or evil, bad or good. We have this weird dualistic, like it's either this extreme or that extreme. It can't be in the middle somewhere. And most of the most miraculous things happen in the middle. So it's important that we actually start to use that middle, that gray area, because that's where most of the work can be done to get you to where you want to go. So that's what so with Tracy Goldman and that, she just never gave her the example. And that's something that Oprah has talked about in her own lectures, that's when she realized you can't just tell somebody what they should be trying to achieve. You have to give them steps to get there. So it's important to have the steps there. When will God, let's see, here's another one. Snooty. Yeah. So when you work towards, your ladder, or you work your way up, you start to have these experiences that make you feel special and make you feel unique. The first time I ever got a body massage, I felt like, oh my God, I feel like a rich person. Or, oh my God, I feel like los ricos, right? Because I felt like I had this experience that people who are in the hood don't get to have. So it was big for me, and I loved that experience so much. I went and bought like a bunch of people in my family a bunch of massages because I wanted them to have the same experience. Because if I have the scarcity mindset, if I've never had these kinds of experiences, I want them to be able to have that same experience. So I wanted to give them that gift. And so it helped them, because then they started to kind of get to a place. I actually think that's something that helped my sister as well in her own overcoming of the scarcity mindset and going into a prosperity mindset, because I was giving her experiences that made her feel like she was more than what she thought she was. And people are more focused on getting things. Things are not going to make you feel like more than what you are. Things are still something that's separate from you in a physical form. You still need to feel the sense of wealth, or the sense of prosperity. So it's better to focus on having experiences that give you a sense of prosperity, not so much the things that give you the sense of prosperity. If someone who spends $200, $300 on a pair of tennis shoes every few months because they must have that brand or they must have that shoe, if they're spending that much money on that because they want to feel like they're rich from that, which is fine. If that's what makes them feel that way, that's fine. But is there an intent behind that? Is that just spending money to feel rich? Or is there an intent to actually build towards something that's going to get you to? I would rather that person take that money and spend it on a website, or spend it on some training or some certification. Spend it on something that is going to give you a skill to build yourself up as a person. And then when you're there, when you get to a place where you're happy with yourself, you can spend the money on them Jordans or on those shoes that cost a crap load of money. You can do it then, but by that point, you probably won't want them, because your mindset will change and you won't see the value in them as much as you may have seen prior. And so we tend to latch onto these things and less focus on the experience of something. Let's focus on trying to get to a place that is going to help us to feel and to have better, more prosperous lives. So that's something else as well. Here's another one. I can't be happy until they, and then, so we always want to blame other people or make others responsible for our scarcity, for our lack. And it isn't something that falls on other people. It isn't something that is basically, I gotta log in here because I gotta keep my notes. What the hell I'm talking about, Fernie? So it's not, what happens is we want to blame other people for our sense of lack because it's easy to blame other people. It's easier to say, well, if my husband or my boyfriend was this way, I could be happy. Well, first of all, it's not his damn job to make you happy. Like, it's nobody's job to make you happy. You're responsible for your own happiness. And until you take responsibility for your own happiness, nothing changes. I won't be able to achieve this and this in my life until he gets this or he gets that. You know what? When I decided to do this full time for a living, I had no one supporting me. Like, nobody was giving me, you can do it. You can whatever you put your mind to, you can do it or whatever. Like, nobody was coming at me like this. The closest thing to it was like my sister who says, Nano, I love you and I support you. So if that's what you want to do, then that's what you should do. That was the closest thing to, this is a good idea, or give it a shot. What's the worst case scenario? You fail and then you got to go back to your day job. So for me, I had no support moving forward in the desires that I had. And I wasn't willing to compromise my happiness to fit in the box that everybody had built for me. Not only that, but it's not like they were forcing me to stay in that box. I willingly was in that box because of my own conditioning, because of my acceptance of the story of my conditioning. And so I decided, screw it, I'm going to go forward with my plans. If I fail, I am risking everything in my life, but it is worth it because at least I can walk away and say, well, shit, I give it a shot. And it didn't work. So obviously that's not what I'm supposed to do. But the desire was burning so strongly within me that I had no choice. I had to follow through. And that's what I did. And I spent an entire year building my business and working on building everything up to the level that it was. But it took a lot of work. I didn't sleep at night. I mean, I really was waking up at 3:30 in the morning to be at work by 4. And then I would have to work all the way until like 1 or 2, depending if I worked a short day. That's a short day because most of the time, if things got too rowdy at Starbucks, I'd end up not leaving till 3 or 4 o'clock, depending on what was going on that day. So that was going on. And then after I got off of work, I'd run home, I'd take a shower, I'd eat something, and then I'd see 3 or 4 clients in the evenings. And then I'd be done by 8 or 9, and then I would sleep and start all over again. And I was literally doing that for about a year. Now, granted, I did have some days off, but I was doing that for a year. That's a lot of work. And most people who are already working 3 or 4 jobs to support themselves before this whole drama started, they were working 3 or 4 jobs, I get it. You have to survive. You have to do whatever you have to do. But if you're already working 3 or 4 jobs, why not have one of those jobs be something that is going to support your business or going to build you towards your business? And so that's something that can be applied in that way. But it really was a tiresome time for me. And I had invitations to family events to do stuff with family. Now, I'm not usually a very person where I want to be at a party or I want to go do stuff and be around a lot of people, but I had to say no to a lot of opportunities to be with my family, to spend time with people, because my goals, my desire was more important to me than that moment. And people might say, well, yeah, but it's the moments, it's the little moments that count. Yeah, it's the little moments that count. The little moments are important, but I would rather have missed 1 year of little moments than to waste an entire lifetime in worry and fear and teaching the people around me about scarcity and not being able to support myself, not being able to do for those people, but still have the little moments. You see what I'm saying? So it's almost like you got to take it into perspective. Would you rather have one really rough year where you're doing something, building towards something that's going to help you to create the life that you desire? Or do you want to spend your whole life struggling, not happy, and just blaming everybody else for shit? And then those people or your children seeing that and getting that example from you. So we want to make people responsible for our own scarcity. And we always want to blame this person or that person for the reason why we're not happy or the reason why we don't have something. Unfortunately, that's just another symptom of a scarcity mindset. I won't be happy to achieve until this happens. And it comes a lot where people say, I won't be happy until this happens. I won't be happy till I win the lottery. I won't be happy until my husband, my boyfriend, asks me for my hand in marriage. I won't be happy until this person stops cheating on me. I won't be happy until this happens. Like, you need to stop with that, because that bullshit is getting old and you're not taking responsibility for what you can control. It is not the universe's job to fix your life for you. It is not God's job to fix your life for you in prayer or in any kind of response when you made the mess to begin with. If I have a child and that child is playing around and they make a big old mess on the floor, I'm not going to go and clean that up. I'm going to make that child clean up their own damn mess, because what is that teaching them? How is that helping them to be efficient, effective people who are going to be doing well in their lives? That's not going to help them. So why would you expect God to treat you any differently? When God comes from a place of love, why would you not expect God to hold you accountable to your own bullshit? So you have to really think about that, because if you are trying to make somebody else or something else responsible for fixing things, you are in a scarcity mindset. And you will continue to struggle and suffer in that energy and in that way. That state of being does not serve you. Again, another thing, like I said, money is the root of all evil. Again, that's another thing. People who have money, or people who want money, or people who want prosperity, that's evil, that's wrong, that's whatever. And that was written by people who don't have money, and they were trying to justify how they were special, or they were important, or they were significant. Money is neither good nor bad. Money is a tool. A hammer can be used to build a house. It can also be used to destroy a house as well. So money is the same thing. It is a tool that can be used to help you to achieve something if you are strategic in what you're trying to achieve. But if you're just using it to get back at others or to do whatever, of course, it's a weapon. It's the murder weapon. It's the prime murder weapon. So it really depends on how you use the tool. Money is just that. It's just a tool. When I was trying to build my prosperity mindset, what I used to do, because something that I couldn't afford to do, which was just to have money laying around. I mean, if I saw a penny or a quarter or whatever, I'd go and use it because that's all I had, I would look for change and stuff to try to get it together to go buy a burger, to go buy this or go do that. That was the mindset that I had because that was my situation. That was my reality. And so when I decided to start to get outside of my comfort zone, I had to find ways to feel like I was wasting money. And so what I would do, and there's a few tricks that you can do here, but I would go and I would take $100, and I mean, literally $100. I started off with 20 and then I worked my way up to 100, but I would go and take a $20 bill, switch it into like 15 ones and like a shitload of $5 worth of quarters. And then I'd go in on my cabinet and I'd just scatter the money all over the top of it and all the coins on top of it. And I'd leave it there for a week or two. And I had to promise myself I would not touch it because I didn't need to touch it. I didn't need to touch it. And granted, that was easier said than done because, of course, bills come up. Shit comes up, friend invites you to go eat some lunch. You want to go, you want to do this stuff. You have to really work around it where I'm not going to touch that. I'm on a budget and I choose to budget myself. I'm not poor, I'm budgeting myself. And I had to trick my mind around that. But just seeing that money every day, just sitting there, in the beginning, I was just like, I want to go and spend it and use it for this. I want to go spend it and use that. I really need that dollar today. I really need that quarter today. And I had to fight against my urge to want to use it because I was in desperate need of it. After several days and after a few weeks of doing that, and again, I started with $20 and I worked my way up to 100. But it forced me to get comfortable with the idea that money was just there and you don't have to use it. You don't have to grab this dollar and grab that and grab this and grab that. You don't have to. I was watching a Schitt's Creek last night. I don't know, for those of you who watch Schitt's Creek, I love Schitt's Creek. It's one of my favorite shows and it's about to end. It's like in its last season. But I was watching Schitt's Creek last night, and in the episode I saw last night, I'm not going to give too much away. This is a spoiler, y'all, but in the in the show last night, there's a person in the show who people have always underestimated or just thought this was just this person who, they work and, they earn a living, but, there's nothing really spectacular about that person. They were just always this person in the background. And then in this episode, it turns out that this person was a millionaire and that they had actually won the multi-million-dollar lottery like years before, but they just never told anybody. And the reason why they were doing the stuff they were doing was just because they wanted to have a personal connection and relationship with people. So they were going and doing stuff because they wanted to feel a connection to people and to talk to people, and they didn't want to be treated differently. So it was just like a huge shocker. And just like, what? But that's the thing. Like, you would never be able to tell a difference between her and somebody who is just humble and who budgets themselves and doesn't really try to go and be exuberant. You don't have to bling bling to bring in the bling bling. You don't have to. You can be someone who's very humble, who's appreciative of what they have. You value what you have, but yet you can still have plenty of resources and plenty of opportunities. You can be that person. You don't have to be showy. And so what I've learned from being around people who are millionaires and people who do have a lot of money is the people who try the hardest to show it off are the people who are the most insecure and don't have a lot of it. And so that's what I learned from the people who actually have are in those states or in situations. And so whenever I go to a restaurant, I felt very intimidated. I have a friend who invited me to a restaurant, and I was freaking out. It was a gift from the friend to me. She was like, I want to thank you so much for what you've done. And I was freaking out because it was the one, if not the most expensive restaurant in New Mexico or Santa Fe, or one of the few super expensive ones. But anyways, one meal just between the two of us was like $600. One meal between the two of us, $600. And my brain, I was just like, and so I was really uncomfortable with that because I grew up in a mindset that's like 3 months of groceries for some people. That's like that's like the savings of someone's account at some point. So it's really uncomfortable to be in a situation where you have to kind of deal with that. But I had to talk myself out of you know what, Fernie, stop with this bullshit, because you're basically telling yourself that you cannot have or experience this in the way that is being given to me. This is not something I paid for. I was gifted this meal. And so I was so nervous. I bought a shirt and I went and bought it like a blazer, and I had to iron the whole shit. And I was because I didn't want to feel uncomfortable and I didn't want to feel out of my element. So I was really trying to look like the role, but I was really uncomfortable. But I still did it because I was like, when am I going to have the opportunity to go and have a $300, $400 or $600 meal? When am I going to get that opportunity? So if this is the only time I'm ever going to do this, I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm going to enjoy it and appreciate it. So in that moment, I had to force myself to get comfortable with something that I was conditioned to not be comfortable with. Something that I was told, this is wrong, you're bad for having spent that much money. What the hell is wrong with you for spending $600? Who are you? You think you're all that? You think you're better than everybody? No, I was not comfortable with the situation at all. But I said, you know what, Fernie, in the future, if you find yourself in a position where you can spend that much on a meal, promise yourself you're going to spend that much on helping people as well. Because if you're going to benefit from that kind of prosperity and that kind of wealth, you must share it. And so that's what I was told in my mind when I was sitting there and trying to come to terms with this in my mind. If I'm going to take advantage and appreciate this opportunity, this experience, gift it to someone else as well. Give it in some form or fashion to somebody else as well. So I try to do that as best as I can. If I'm going to splurge and spend a little money on myself, I'm going to give somebody else something as well. I recently, my MacBook, I have a MacBook. It's MacBook, this is since 2015. I have not bought a new MacBook since 2015. I've been holding on to this bitch since 2015 because it was an expensive computer to begin with. I got it with the help of a friend who gave me a massive discount because he worked for Apple. But it was an expensive ass computer. And I've been using this baby since 2015 because that's when I got it. That's a almost 5-year-old computer. Most computers don't even last 3 years or whatever. They start breaking down and get all quebrados. But I kept it and I've been using it because I love my MacBook. I really do, even though it's gotten glitchy over the years. But I try to keep it running smooth because I want to feel like it's still a symbol of oh, people who have Macs, they tend to be people who are in CEO positions or people who do this. It's the association. But I'm not going for the thing. I'm using the thing to make me feel a certain way because it's aligning me with this idea of being in a position where you have an entire organization that you run and so I use it to my advantage, even though it's a 5-year-old computer, because the symbol of what it represents is more important than what the actual product it is that you got. So, but again, like I said, when you move up, so I needed to get something as a backup because with all this stuff happening and more people being online and stuff, I can't afford for my computer to break down because I run everything off of my computer. And I've been wanting to switch everything over. I haven't updated, oh, it's getting hot in here. I haven't updated my MacBook to the latest operating system because the software that I use for recording sessions for clients, it's no longer going to be supported because the company that I originally bought the software from, they no longer were supporting the technology. So I was like, okay, I got to find something else because I need to update my Mac because it's getting glitchy. But my whole MO is I want to make everything easy for people. I want them to have an easy experience with me. The less thinking and the less work they have to do, the better. I'd rather do the work myself and get it done so that they have the best experience possible. So I try to make it easy. And I was thinking about switching over to Zoom because it seemed like a lot of people were using Zoom. And this was, last year, but a lot of people were using Zoom. And I was like, well, it offers the same options and stuff like that. So I'm probably going to use Zoom. But every time I've tried to use Zoom, I felt it was too complicated. And I was like, a lot of clients that I have, they're not going to want to go through all this trouble to just have a session with me. I want it to be easy for people. So I just been holding off and holding off and holding off and holding off. I've even had a Zoom account I have yet to use because I'm paying for it, but I have yet to use it because I'm not willing to compromise the experience of my client for some company that hasn't worked out its glitches. So I've been holding off and holding off and holding off. And I was like, I feel like I need to wait for the technology to get better, or I need for them to make it better and make it better. But I was like, And so now with all of this happening and everybody being on Zoom and doing stuff on Zoom, I'm like, well, everybody is learning how to use this now. So this is probably going to be really easy for a lot of people to use because the universe is training people to use Zoom so that it's easy for my clients now. And then today my partner was like, hey, there was some hacking with Zoom. It's a good thing you haven't switched over yet. And I was like, this is what I was saying. I want them to work out the glitches. So I'm glad I haven't switched yet because they are going to come into a lot of glitches and a lot of stuff with the technology. And I want them to perfect it so that, it makes the process easy for the person who's just going to be receiving the call. So, and I don't even know why I was talking about that, but back to what I was talking about before. So for me, I use my laptop as a symbol, as a status of, quality, because that's the way that it is. And it's the same thing with that experience at the restaurant. If I'm going to buy something, and that's the promise that I made, if I'm going to buy something for myself and splurge on myself because I've been waiting or saving or whatever, I have to offer it to somebody else as well, or I have to give it something just as well. And my partner, he does not like to spend money at all. If I go and spend $100 on something, he's like, why did you spend that much money? I'm just like, because this is something that we needed, or this is something that would benefit us. So he's not a spender at all. He's the exact opposite. But I have been trying to get him to buy a computer for a while now because he had a great computer and then it broke down 3 years ago, and he refuses to spend the amount of money it would take to buy something of good quality. He's just like, I'm not going to spend that much money on that. So I'll go without it. So I'm like, you know what? I need to get something as a backup in case something happens to my computer, then I can have a backup for it. So I went ahead and bought myself a iPad Pro because I kept trying to find a cheaper version of something that would work just as well, but it just wasn't gonna work. So I was like, I'm just gonna get an iPad Pro. And I was even asking my social media manager, I was like, have you enjoyed it? I don't want to spend the money on this and I'm not going to like it and it's going to be a waste and whatever. She's like, no, I love it. Get it. I'm like, okay. So I was like, if I'm going to buy myself this, I need to gift someone something in return. So I ended up buying my partner a computer just to give it to him, so he can have it. Now I actually told him that I bought it for myself. So I told him it's my computer, but it's actually his because he's been spending every single day on it. But the only way he's going to accept the prosperity is if it's at the behest of somebody else, because he still struggles with that prosperity mindset. Even though he's seen me and the way that I've completely transformed my life over the last few years, even though he's seen me, he's still stuck in that. And so the only way that I can help somebody who's stuck in a position of lack is by forcing them to accept an idea that fits their narrative, which is, this is not mine, this is his, this is for his job, but I can use it now. Like, that's the closest thing I can do for someone like that, because they're stuck in that. And so it really is a personal choice that you have to make if you're going to accept blessings into your life, if you're going to allow yourself. And he went without a computer for like years. And so that was his choice. That's what he chose to accept. And that was part of his story. So nothing that I could say is going to change his choice, because his choice is still his choice. So I did what I told the universe. It's like, okay, if you're going to give me this, I'm going to give this to somebody else. I must share this with somebody else. So that way I felt better about it. And so that's what I did. And so with the meal, she gifted me that meal. And so I went a few months later, I went and I did that for somebody else. And I felt great giving it to somebody else, even though they were uncomfortable with receiving a meal of that expense, but I gifted it to somebody else. Now, that's not something I do every day, y'all. So don't think that I'm running around like, a millionaire, because I'm really not. I have to be very meticulous about the way I budget myself. But like, if I don't eat out, because I really don't eat out, I eat out. Before this all happened, I was eating out maybe twice a month, maybe 3 times at the most. We were still making most of our foods, because I just didn't want to drive all the way into town to have to get something at a restaurant. Just didn't want to go do it. So I wasn't eating out a lot. And in Houston, I was eating out at McDonald's like every other week. Like, you must best believe I was going to McDonald's drive-thru and pretending that I just went to go get gas at the gas station. And then I'd chomp that up, and then I'd go back home. Hey babe, yeah, I'm really hungry. I haven't eaten all day. Like, I'm not stupid. I know how to play that. But I was eating out a lot more. Here, I don't eat out very often. And so I'm able to save the money from that. So if I want to splurge on a really tasty meal once a month, that is kind of, up there, then I can do it. I still don't, because I still don't feel like I need to be spending $600 on a fucking meal every time I eat out. But there's nothing wrong with that either, because there are people in positions of wealth and prosperity who can do that. I'm not at that place in my life right now, but I'm still going to watch my pennies. So I can spend $20 or $50. So I think for me, the most I'm comfortable with spending on a regular eat out meal is 100 below. If it's past 100, it's got to be I got to get dressed up for that. This is going to require me to get dressed for, but I will spend, less than that. But that's where my comfort level is currently. And I'm still working on my own prosperity. I'm still working on my mindset as well, because this is a journey. This isn't like you start off here and then you end up here and you're done. No, it's a journey. Just because you graduated and you got your degree doesn't mean that all of your, problems and all of your concerns and all of the things that you thought you couldn't have, you finally suddenly have, and you have a full-fledged, fully manifested career. No, you still have to bust your ass way after you end up getting your degree. You still have to bust your ass even when you achieve having your own business, because the business is not guaranteed. It must be maintained. And if you get too cocky and too arrogant and think, I've achieved, I've done this the best, I've done that the best. If you're cocky and arrogant and walking around, acting like everything is set in stone, the universe will twist the world around and bring everything on your head. And then you will be humbled. And then you will realize that you really do have to work on a consistent basis to maintain that energy state. And that's something you have to work on. If you want a prosperity mindset, it's not a patch you can stick on your arm that is always going to allow you to maintain the same level. You have to keep reapplying. If you want to lose weight, you don't just do one exercise one time and think that that's going to get you anywhere. You have to keep reapplying every single day. Do something that will contribute to your goal, whether it's addressing your meal for that day, or addressing your activity level for that day, or saying no to going out and drinking all your calories up. So you have to work towards it. And it's the same thing with anything you want to manifest or create. You have to work towards it in phases and in stages. And when you embrace that mindset, instead of this, I'm here, I need to be there, why am I not there, you're going to maintain that scarcity mindset, and you've gotten nowhere. The best way to manifest, and here's a trick, best way to manifest is simple. Is simply to have a desire or a vision that is practical, not an ideal perfection of a dream, but a practical version of it. What is actually attainable, or what is possible? And then start to surround yourself with people who may have already done that themselves or may have achieved that, or study the people who have achieved it. Start to take their strategies and start to take their technique, because you're going to learn from just watching or seeing those people in action. If you don't know anyone around you that is an exemplification of that, then you need to start to surround yourself with people who do. I'm not saying, well, hey, I want to be prosperous, I'm going to say bye to all my poor friends. That's not the way you handle things. But, as you move forward and as you move into a different energy state, the people around you are going to either appreciate you and be happy for you, or they're going to become jealous, or they're going to hate you because you are basically throwing in their face what they're not able to do themselves, or what they want, but they're not working towards. And at that point, you probably have to make a decision. Do I want to continue to have this person in my life because they're not supportive of what I'm achieving? Or do I want to continue to contaminate my conditioning by adding on and affirming the conditioning with this person's, attitude or their reaction to my situation? And so you really have to get picky about who you surround yourself with. But you always want to love the people that you love, but you also want to make sure that the people that you love are going to nurture and support you. And if they're not, what the hell are they in your lives for? Why are they there? Why are they there, part of your life, aside from them being your children or whatnot? Why are they there in your life? Just a thought. I hope I clarified some things there, but really having a vision, taking practical steps for a practical vision, not the dream, not the ideal, but a practical version of it, taking steps and moving in that direction. If you can start to take little steps, make a big to-do list of all the stuff you actually got to do. Not, I want to be famous, so I need to be discovered. That is not a practical list. That is not a practical desire or wish. I want to have recognition for my music. That's a practical list. What can I do? I can start to play everywhere and anywhere so that more people can know of me, more people can see me. That's a practical step. Making it easy for people to find my content by getting all over social media like no one's business. That's a practical step in that direction. Offering to play at baby showers, offering to play at family engagements or at people's parties or whatever, and offering to do it for either dirt cheap or for nothing, and it'd be just practice for me to get comfortable with being in front of people. That's a practical step. If you start to take your goals seriously and you take serious steps in that and step outside of your comfort zone, you're going to start to see the universe be like, oh, this bitch is for real. Like, she really wants to get this done. So why don't we come together and help her out? Because if she's willing to put herself out on the line like that, she is serious. So let us give her a serious response, which is going to not be the slapback. It's going to be the universe starting to align things for you in a way where you start to get strong validation and evidence that you're moving in the right direction, which would include the alignment of numbers, which would include you having people show up in your life who help you get to another step. You meeting people who are supportive and nurturing of what you're trying to achieve. Meeting people who have a story similar to yours and can start to lead you down a clearer path. Those are the validations that the universe will give you. If you are praying to God for a cure for your cancer and someone shows up and they tell you, look, I don't know if I can help you cure the cancer, but why don't you try this routine with your health? Why don't you try incorporating these things into your life and start removing these things into your life and start being healthier, or start acting in a way that supports healthier life or healthier body? Or why don't you go to this lecture? These people are finding new ways of coping with cancer and coping with being in that state, because it takes such a big toll on your mindset and on your desire to want to live, because it's so hard. Like, if someone shows up and says that to you, that's an answer to your prayer. That's a little indicator that can lead to a much bigger vision, a much bigger opportunity. You need to take advantage of that opportunity. Take advantage of that step, because it may actually lead to something much, much grander. Okay. All right, guys, I love you all. I am wishing you well. Please stay safe and love yourselves, love your families. And if you can't feel that way, then just find something to make yourself feel better, and that can get you past the next moment, so that way you can get back to a place of trying to love yourself and loving everyone around you. Okay. I love you all, and I bless you all with love, and you take care. Next time. Bye-bye.